Hi, this is DeMatteis, and you're listening to the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.
Well, greetings, Cap fans. Welcome to episode 194 of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. I'm Rick Verbanis. I'm your host, and as always, I'm joined by Bob Lucius. He's the best gosh darn co-host out there, and this is when I say a different greeting to him. Oh, Bob, come and play. Everything's A-okay. Friendly neighbors there, and that's where we meet. Can you tell me how to get to?
Wall Street.
Yeah, no. A little off.
Oh, goodness. Big fan of Sesame Street, Rick.
Sunny day, sweeping the clouds away.
Man, right? Yeah. Grew up on that stuff.
Yeah. All right, Bob, why am I greeting you with Sesame Street?
Why?
And this is where the deductive reasoning comes in. You could take a wild guess and be probably half right.
Oscar the Grouch is in this issue?
No, he's not.
Oh,
no.
Always my favorite. Snuffleupagus.
No, wait, who's he?
Do you remember he was the big elephant, like the big woolly brown elephant that nobody could see?
I never saw him.
Really? I'm so full of joy right now.
I'm so glad you fell for that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, because Bob, there is a mention of Sesame Street in the comic we're covering today. And the comic we're covering today is Captain America 267. And it is a special standalone issue written by J.M. DeMatteis.
Well, it's got an interesting plot line, Rick, with an interesting, I think, dynamic going on. So I think it's a good choice.
Yeah, and I would also recommend for everybody who's going to listen or watch this episode, have your dictionary handy. Oh my goodness, Bob, did I have to look up a few words in this particular story?
Yeah.
DeMatteis got a little loquacious.
Oh, nice.
He was
done.
He not only had the antagonist use a lot of big words, but Cap was thinking big words.
He was thinking big words.
Yeah.
Do you think in big words, Rick,
I don't.
Or do you just think in simple words?
I don't think in words at all, Bob.
Yeah, just pictures.
Yeah, I'm like comics, you know. No, I don't know. It's a great question. I don't know what I think in. I think I think in feelings.
Okay.
I think in thoughts.
Do you talk to yourself?
You
ever talk out loud to yourself?
Yeah, occasionally, yeah.
Yeah. All right. And do you use big words then? Or?
No, it's usually stupid.
Sometimes I catch myself talking to myself, and I'm like, "You hear that?" You know, sort of thing.
No, the problem is, is when you start talking back.
Yeah, that's an issue. Right,
yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Interesting. How are you doing? How's your week been?
It's been a good week, Rick. Well, it's early in the week, so but it's been good. This is the great time. Season's over for us at work. You know, it's that's behind us. Now we're planning, and I love staff time. I'm taking the whole week this week, and the staff is just like, we did lessons learned today. So
nice.
Everybody show up with their problems and solutions, retrospectively looking back at the last several months, and we spent like a good 3.5 hours today sitting around a table going through those, and that was really fun and productive. So it has me all fired up. We're feeling productive this week.
Excellent.
Yeah,
always good to bring the solutions along with the problems.
Oh, absolutely.
Did you like my response to you? And you were like,
I did.
What's our issue tomorrow?
That was great. Yeah.
What did I say?
You said that. What did you say? That I can't remember the exact wording, but basically it was just paraphrase. That's a dour outlook.
Yeah. You're like, what's our issue tomorrow? I'm like, that's a negative outlook.
Yeah. Fortunately, though, you responded. So.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to make sure you had enough time to do your prep for this episode. I didn't want that to fall on me that you didn't prep for this particular episode.
Oh no, no. I had a chance to lay in bed and read myself to sleep last night to the thrilling adventures of Captain America and Everyman.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm trooping. I'm being a trooper. I'm going to get through this particular episode. So about 10 days ago, I started getting this pain in my
Oh,
my
your tooth.
tooth. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so you know, I was like, oh, it'll go away. It'll go away.
Mhm.
And it didn't go away. And so and this was like 10 days ago, but I went into the dentist this morning at 7 a.m. and they go in, they take an x-ray and like, yeah, you broke your tooth. Oh,
Oh.
I thought it was like a gum thing, right?
Yeah,
And they're
right.
like,
Yeah.
no, no, you cracked your tooth right here in the bottom, like in between like the two teeth.
Uh-huh.
And I think I was just kind of flossing a little too vigorously.
Yeah, you were really getting
And
dialing into that. Yeah.
yeah, and so anyway, they're like, all right, well, let's just you want to take care of it now? I'm like, yeah, so went ahead, take care of it. And it was two shots they had to put in
Oh,
there.
right, right. Yeah.
Yeah, not just one, two
Yeah. Yeah.
shots of Novocaine.
Yeah.
And so from like right here under my eye
Uh-huh.
down to underneath my chin, that whole side was just numb,
Yeah.
right? And so I go to work and I'm working from home and
Yeah.
but I'm dialing into meetings and I'm trying not to lisp too much or start trolling. So
Hey,
I'm in
how's
this,
everybody today?
yeah. Yeah, like I'm doing my best Bill Murray
You're
from
right. Yeah.
Caddyshack, and and I'm in this one meeting. It's from 11 a.m. till noon, and I'm with my boss and this another boss kind of person, and so I have to look good, do a good job in this, and in the course of that hour, I went from I can't feel my mouth. And I was worried that when I went and took a sip from like my straw that I like wasn't like drooling down, right?
Oh my goodness.
I went from that extreme to the oh my God, the Novacare wore off. And I was all of a sudden like, oh, that's a lot of pain.
Yeah, nice.
And
Nice.
then I end up uh eating something, and of course it's all numb at lunch and or well, whatever. And I bit the inside of my mouth a few times. So
Oh,
so if I'm talking tonight and you
yeah.
see me like wince or something or pause,
Yeah.
it's probably because I'm just rubbing up against all this rawness in my mouth right now.
All right. All right. Well, that's good to know. I'm glad they got it taken care of though, and you won't be any pain anymore. Because I know that's been really giving you a hard time recently. So you got to take care of yourself, man. Job number one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't take
Anything
care of
special?
others if you don't take care of yourself.
That's true. Yeah, I'm putting on that oxygen mask first, man.
Yep.
Through my kids. Hey Bob,
Yeah.
it's if you're listening on the day this episode comes out, it's June 26th.
Mhm.
There's a couple birthdays that's being celebrated. So today, Tom DeFalco celebrates a birthday. Editor-in-chief for a long time in Marvel, during especially overseeing a lot of Captain America stuff,
Mhm.
and also a writer. He's written a few Captain America stories. And then tomorrow, June 27th, Dan Jurgens celebrates a birthday.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah. And if you remember, we had Dan on to help us celebrate the 100th episode.
Yeah, that was a fun interview. He
Yeah.
was lively.
Yeah.
Really warmed up over the course of that interview.
Remember how we started? He was doing the intro and then the phone rang. He was like,
I don't remember that.
"Hi, this is Dan Jurgens." Ring, and he was like, "Oh, son of a gun!" It's actually in the blooper at the
okay.
end, at the
Yeah.
very end of
Yeah.
episode 100. You can hear that.
All right.
But those are the special birthdays this week.
Indeed. Indeed. Oh, there's another big one, Rick. My darling, precious bride. Her birthday is on June 26th as well. So
Really, today is Casey's birthday.
it is. Happy 30th, honey. I love you.
It's 29, Bob. Get it right.
Well, okay. All right. I think she'd be happy with 30. But in any case, Happy birthday to my beautiful bride. I'm sure at some point she'll be listening to this, either with me or without me, if you know what I mean. But in any case, she does wonderful things and she tolerates me. And she recently got me a new comic, as a matter of fact, that I've been after. And so I appreciate her support over the years.
Yeah. Well, happy birthday to Casey. We wish you a very lovely birthday, well deserved. And oh yeah, and she also got you that really cool Captain America towel.
That's right. Yeah, to get me to go to the beach.
Have you been to the beach yet?
No. No, actually, I did. She got me there the week before the towel came. We've been going on these walks, long walks on the weekends, and she said, "Well, we got to drop Bobby off at the beach. He's having a friend meet up at the beach." She's like, "Why don't we just do our walk there?" And I was like, "Oh."
You're like sand.
Sand. I know. I'm like Anakin, right? I'm like, oh, I hate
sand. I heard somewhere recently, like today's generations, like there's some misnomers of what names stand for and like where they come from. And someone said, yeah, sand. Yeah, that is like they couldn't decide if it was sea or land. It's somewhere in between sea and land, so it's sand.
I like that, actually. That does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's intuitive.
There you go.
I like it.
All right, Bob, should we get to today's issue?
It makes sense to do so.
All right, that's why we're here, right?
Yeah, that's what the folks paid for.
Okay, so we are covering, as I mentioned before, Captain America 267. This had a cover date of March 1982. Hit the stands right in the beginning of December of 1981. And as I mentioned before, the writer is J.M. DeMatteis, penciler Mike Zeck, inker John Beatty, colorist Bob Sharon, letterer Jim Novak, and editor Jim Salicrup. And we had half these people on the show, Bob. This is beginning of a early run with Zeck and DeMatteis together. He and actually John Beatty also joined right around this time as well, because DeMatteis did Captain America 261 through 264, and it was if you listen to episode 13, when we had him on the show, awesome interview, just a lot of fun, a lot of insight into the characters, the reasoning behind his characters, some of the stories and things like that. So highly recommend that you check out that interview with him on episode 13. He did talk about how that first story was something that he was doing for like a treasury edition. And it was to tie in with the 1979 Captain America made for TV movie. And then he wrote the story, and then essentially Marvel was like, we don't want to really tie ourselves in with this. Can you rewrite the story, take out the part where he meets the actor in Hollywood, and then we'll use it in the Captain America book? And that's, that was one of the things he told us in the interview. And so now he had a couple issues go by, and someone else did 265, 266, and now here we are at 267, which kicks off a nice, like 2.5 year run on the series, because he basically wrote it, well, maybe 3 year run all the way up to issue 300. And so that's where we are today with DeMatteis and this story, which is The Man Who Made a Difference. You want to take the listeners through the cover?
Sure. I'd love to. So it's an exciting cover, and so it's teal, Rick. The cover is teal. Now,
Okay.
it's not just any teal, it's common teal, which, as you well know, it lies between like crystal green and Caribbean green on the color wheel. So we've got a nice teal cover that's striking. In the background, we see the Statue of Liberty. And in the foreground, we see Cap, and he's battling someone, and we're not quite sure yet who that is because we haven't read this issue. But Cap is in a defensive pose. He's got his shield raised above his left shoulder. He's sort of crouching down with his weight on his right foot. He's got his fist clenched in his right hand. But this guy who's battling looks a bit like a swashbuckler. And he's got a rapier that seems to be shooting out a bolt of energy, and it's passing between Cap's right fist and his torso. So just barely missing Cap's body. And this gentleman, if I may call him that, because I don't know who he is yet, because I haven't read the issue, he's got sort of this black Zorro mask around his eyes. He's got buccaneer boots. He's got the tight leggings. He's got a bit of a swashbuckler shirt, and he's got a what looks to be like a World Wrestling Federation belt around his midsection, but instead of all the gaudy diamonds and rhinestones, it simply says EM. Now we can infer that this means Everyman, because on the cover we see introducing the threat of Everyman. And then up above Cap's back on the left-hand side of the cover, it says Cap defends his belief in the American way of life against a daringly different supervillain. So really exciting stuff here.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I believe at least a few years ago, there's a comic art dealer, I won't say their name, who has this cover for sale. And I remember seeing it. It's actually two pieces. So Zeck, when he did it, he drew the Statue of Liberty on one board, and then he drew the characters on another, and then they basically put them together to make one image.
Oh, interesting. Interesting technique. Yeah.
And it does have a very cool the logo, one of my favorite logos, which is the Captain America with the red, white, and blue. That's kind of a little bit curved. And so that's there. And then up in the corner box, that I believe is Jack Kirby.
It does look Kirby-esque. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's the old Kirby. And 60 cents, Bob. 60 cents gets you this comic.
Amazing. Amazing.
All right, I'm going to grab my copy. Yeah, and I think when I read this issue for the story today, it was the first time I've read this issue since the first time I read this issue.
Right. Yeah.
And I did not read this when it was on the stands because I didn't start collecting Captain America comics until about 2 years later.
Okay.
And then this was one of those back issues that I picked up very quickly. We open up to this splash page, and one of the thing about Zeck when he does his splash pages, it's usually just one big bold image with and not all of them do actually have Cap in his full uniform, but this one does. And so he's standing there up on a stage at a podium in a high school. And there's a sign behind him, welcoming Captain America. Then standing next to him is how would you describe this man?
Well, he's a fairly portly older man, a little mustache and a tan suit, and he's got a big smile on his face, Rick.
Yeah, and if you put a like a derby hat on him, a bowler hat,
you're right?
Yeah. I would expect him to say that he will gladly pay me Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
And so Cap is there addressing the teenagers, the high schoolers in the audience. And in conclusion, I would like to say that the future of this land is yours to mold. The destiny of our great nation is literally in your hands. I know that there are those who want you to believe that the average citizen is powerless, that you can't make a difference in this world. Well, that's just not so. Reach out, care, dare to dream the highest dreams, and you will make a difference. You must. When the invitation to address the students of DeWitt Clinton High School arrived at Avengers Mansion, the living legend of World War II wasn't sure if he should accept. But now, staring out at the sea of wide eyed faces, speaking heart to heart to the future hope of America, nothing can quell the pride Captain America feels. Not the smattering of jeers mixed in with the wild applause. So we turn the page, and then the principal, grabs the microphone, and certainly not the unctuous fawning of Principal Benjamin Q. Hilson. Bob, do you know what unctuous means?
Over the top, maybe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty close. Yeah,
Okay.
I had to look it up.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure. Why, thank you, Captain America. What say we give the dear boys and girls a chance to ask you some questions now, all right? I'd be delighted. And then out in the audience, there's a buxom blonde
Yes.
who
Yes.
looks like she could be in a Betty and Veronica comic.
Indeed.
She's got that sweater and a little kerchief going around her neck and her
Mm-hmm.
blonde hair hanging down. She's bending over to the microphone. Karen Berger's the name, Cap, and I'd like to know if you'd take me out tonight. If you're not busy saving the world, that is. And by the way, I'm gonna pause here just for a second. Okay.
Yeah.
Karen Berger is a real person.
Is she really?
Yeah. I don't remember who we had on the show, but somebody had mentioned that. And Karen Berger, worked at Marvel at the time. And so
Okay.
they wrote her into the story.
Yeah.
She's end up being a very, very famous editor.
Huh.
And actually for DC Comics, she was the one who was the introduced and was the first editor for what's that mature line for DC Comics that did like Sandman and
Oh, right.
Vertigo? Vertigo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Vertigo.
think she introduced Vertigo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a real person. So she was probably young at the time
Yeah.
when they did this. And of course, Cap's a little embarrassed.
Yeah.
Well, what I mean to say, can we have the next question, please? And the principal wasn't having any of that, right? He goes and he grabs the mic. That we can, Cap. Young lady, I want you in my office directly after assembly. These kinds of shenanigans will not be tolerated in my school. Now let's move along. And so, next kid comes up, and how would you describe this kid?
He's a large boy. He's a large boy, and he's wearing some spectacles, and he's sporting his Star Trek fan shirt on.
He does, yeah.
So
Neil Marks here, Captain. What would the state of our country and the world today? The arms buildup, the energy shortage. I was wondering, how could you maintain such an optimistic outlook? I mean, hey, and there's a guy behind him, right? He looks. How would you describe him?
yeah, he looks like he shouldn't be in high school. He, he's got a very thick and long head of hair, and he's wearing sort of a plaid sport coat. And he looks like an older dude. Certainly doesn't look like a high school student.
Shove over there, tub ball. That ain't the way to confront the liar. We've all had enough of your bull about the American dream, flag waver. He's reaching into his jacket, Bob. Let's talk about the American reality, about unequal distribution of wealth, about poverty, frustration, and death. Or are you afraid of the truth? It happens quickly. The furtive moment, the strangled cry of terror as he goes in, Bob, and he's reaching for a revolver. And the principal, he's just stunned. Good heavens. and the sound of man-made thunder. Instantly, Captain America is moving, butting the numb Hilson to one side and leaping with astonishing ease and grace toward his attacker. And then he puts the shield up, and of course the kid, fires at the shield. I suggest you put that gun away, son, before one of us gets hurt. And he tackles him and knocks the gun out of his hand. The chaos ends before the security guards reach them, and after the auditorium has been cleared. I must say, Captain, you have some extraordinary moves. It's no wonder you've been the idol of so many generations. He's fawning all over Cap. Ignoring Hilson's inane banter, the living legend turns his face to his would-be assassin. And the disheveled youth reads the confusion etched into his intended victim's face. You want to know why, man? Because you're the symbol of everything that stinks in this country. Yeah, you're the shining example who says, you could be what I am if you only try. It's the American success sickness. Strive to be something. Scramble to the top of the heap. But you know what? Only 1 in 10,000 is going to make it. So what about the rest of us? What about the failures? And then, Bob, he spits on Cap's chest, right on the star.
Oh, yeah, that's not cool.
And I gotta tell you, the principal, he raises his hand as if to strike him, but Cap pulls him back. Just hold it right there, Hilson. If you want to prove your manhood, go do it someplace else. And the words seem to hang in the air, stinging and bitter, long after the man who voiced them is gone. I don't know, Bob.
I don't like that. I don't like that either.
I don't think he was trying to prove his manhood. I think it was just a reaction to the tremendous disrespect.
Yeah, and I don't really like the way Cap is portrayed in these couple pages here, sort of denigrating. Like, I don't know, if I was around Cap, I'd be like inanely bantering too, probably like going on and on about how great he is, right?
Right.
And it's clearly this principal's an older man. He's he knows Cap. He's heard of Cap. He's familiar with Cap, and so he's probably a big fan. And he's like any fan. And I just don't like the way they're just sort of denigrating that fandom here.
Mhm.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like something Cap would do.
Yeah, it is a slightly off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next page, some hours later, the sunset sprays the windows of this Brooklyn Heights brownstone a brilliant red. And inside the apartment of freelance artist Steve Rogers, the bourbon smooth voice of Frank Sinatra wafts from an old stereo as Steve Rogers and his lady, Bernie Rosenthal, finish up a casual dinner. And they're sitting on the floor, Bob. They're just sitting on the floor having some Chinese takeout.
Yeah.
You know,
Nice.
I'm usually one for an egg roll, some spare ribs, and a little chow mein, but this was wonderful. Chow pan and sweet and sour chicken is hardly exotic, Steve, but I'm glad to see you're broadening your tastes a little. But let's not talk about food. Let's talk about us. Donna.
Mm, nice dessert.
Right?
Yeah.
Just what every guy wants to hear. Let's talk about us.
Right. Yeah.
What about us? Well, for one thing, we haven't had much time together lately. What with your traveling all over the place, a girl might begin to think she wasn't liked. What? I'm sorry, Bernie. I was thinking about something. I didn't hear what you said. That goes over well usually, right?
Yeah, that's a winner.
Doesn't matter. Sometimes words are such a waste. And she moves in for a kiss, and then the next panel, her eyes widen,
Yeah.
and then she backs away. Hey, it would be nice if you kiss back, you know. What does a girl have to do to get your attention these days? Put on a harem outfit and do a belly dance?
It doesn't hurt.
You know, when I
Just
read this, you
saying.
know what it reminded me of? And this might have been around the same time. I really should look it up just to tie it in, but Happy Days.
Uh-huh.
There was an episode of Happy Days where Mrs. Cunningham um, thought that Mr. Cunningham was losing interest in her.
Uh-huh.
And uh, I don't know, he talked about their daughter's friend, Jenny Piccolo, or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And so Mrs. C was getting jealous. So she decides to do some really like out of the way things to get his attention and everything. So at one point, I think this is maybe
Yeah.
my memory's playing on me, but I think she dressed up as a belly dancer and started like dancing in front of him. And he's like, Miriam, what are you doing? You know? And
Ah,
that's what I thought of when I read this.
interesting. Interesting. Could very well be. It might be a call out there.
Yeah, because this was definitely in the time when Happy
Yeah.
Days was big.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Bernie, but something happened today that threw me off balance. Then share it with me, Steve. It's not healthy to keep things bottled up. I'd like to, Bernie, but well, it's personal. Oh, I see. And you don't feel close enough to me to talk to me about it. Is that what you mean? Bernie, that's not what I mean. I'll talk to you later, Steve. Goodbye. The door slammed behind her with distressing finality. Elsewhere, the festering section of Manhattan known as Hell's Kitchen, to be exact. And it is nighttime, and there is a what is that, like a 6-story building, 7-story building, something like that?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And this here in this squalid tenement shelters a host of broken souls, some vital, some dying, and some that simply defy classification. What does he mean by that? Probably the person who's standing in the middle of this panel, Bob. How do you describe this guy?
Indeed, it's the man we saw on the cover, Rick. The one with EM written on his belt. He looks a bit like a swashbuckler, a bit like a swashbuckling pirate with a Zorro
Indeed.
mask.
Yep. And in this squalor, there are a bunch of people who are kind of just in the room with him. Some are sitting on the floor, some are sitting at a table lit by candlelight. And there's posters all around. And there's a picture of Cap's face, and there's a few posters. One says, "What ream?" Now that's an odd poster,
It
Bob.
really is. Yeah, that doesn't
You
make
know what I
any
mean?
sense whatsoever. Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
probably part of their problems. They can't spell.
yeah. Well, I don't know. I thought they were talking about like stacks of paper or something. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Which it should be witch ream, but whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this guy, the everyman that you spoke to, he starts to address the people in the room. Ira's ill-conceived actions shouldn't worry you, my friends. Despite the fact that he acted rashly, his heart was in the right place. I, Everyman, shall finish his work, destroying Captain America and all his cousinous brood. Bob, what's cousinous
I
mean?
have no idea what that word means, Rick.
I didn't look that one up, Bob.
You
I was
didn't,
hoping you would know.
huh? No, I've never even heard that word. So
In fact, the young lady sitting on the floor next to him feels the same way.
yeah, she has no idea either. Yeah.
So you say, Big Mouth, you talk a real good fight, every man, but it was my brother who went out and took action, and now he's rotting in jail. That is my point, Maggie. Ira had the right idea, but he lacked the proper drama. His style left much to be desired. As such, he paid the price. That is why I am here, to embody your frustrations, fears, and failures, to turn the big lie against those who perpetuate it.
Hmm.
And then he goes down and he grabs her chin, like he's tilting her head up for a kiss,
Hmm.
but he's not kissing her. Instead, he turns that swashbuckling saber in his hand and he points it at Captain America's face. That is why I will seek out the symbol of American lie, and all your names destroy him. That is why Captain America must die. And then there's some sort of electric blast that comes out of the sword, and it destroys Captain America's poster.
Holy cow. That's a pretty cool sword.
Meanwhile, back in Brooklyn, a certain shield slinger, biker, has taken to the streets in hopes of clearing his mind and untangling the knots in his gut. Good work, Cap. You try to race your troubles off and end up smack in the middle of a neighborhood that only accents what the kid said today. He may have overstated it, but there were too many sad truths in his tirade for me to ignore it. And if I could ever ignore all the and again, he's going through like I don't know, the ghetto.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's probably a
I
fair
mean,
description.
I only say that because it paints a picture that people will be like, "Oh, I know what that looks like."
Right,
Right?
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's guys sleeping on the sidewalk,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
and then there's these three little kids, and I gotta say, they all look less than 10 years old,
Yep. Yep.
right?
Definitely youngins.
And they come running up to Cap as he kind of parks his bike. Wow, look! I don't believe it, Captain America! Oh boy! The three beaming faces are enough to shut aside all reveries and recriminations. Next page, and there's Cap holding one and talking to the others. As a broadly grinning Cap hops off his cycle and, what's up, boys? Gee, you really are Captain America. Right here in Bedford Stuyvesant. I don't know what the hell that is.
Stuyvesant. Yeah, I guess that's, I don't know. Bedford Stuyvesant, right?
What
Got
the hell's
me.
a Stuyvesant?
It's Dutch.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
We read about you all the time. Yeah, we never thought we'd meet you. Meanwhile, several stories above, and then there's these three older teens, rough-looking guys. They look like they belong in the movie The Warriors.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. And they look like they belong to that little cabal that Everyman had going
Hmm.
on back at his tenement.
Look at the goon showing off down there. I guess he got bored in that inventor's mansion and decided to go slumming. What say we put him in his place? Yeah? Let's trash him. And then they take a metal trash can that was conveniently up on the roof of a building. And four stories down, they dump trash on Cap and the kids. Looking good, Flash Face. Garbage becomes you. You ugly muscle-bound old coot. With all the idiotic stunts, Cap looks angry.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, with very little ease, he hops up the fire escape and gets up onto the roof.
You know what, Rick? At this point in my life, I would embrace it if somebody called me an ugly, muscle-bound old coot.
Because I mean, there's so much packed there, Bob.
There really is. I'll accept the ugly and the old coot if I could just have the muscle-bound back. Yeah.
Well, you're halfway there.
Yeah.
Didn't it occur to you, young fools, that you could have hurt those children? Or is that beyond your limited mental capacities? I think he's mad. Pedro, Mike, where you going? This super stud ain't gonna do anything. This dude can whomp the Red Skull. You think he's gonna stomp us for throwing garbage on him? I've got your number, hero. You hung out in ghettos back when it was fashionable, but no more. So why don't you get lost? Around here, you ain't worth spit. And he spits on Cap's chest right in the. Bob, we never see Cap getting spit on, and now he's been spit on twice.
Twice. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It's like a TikTok
Like,
trend.
like we could go another 50 issues and never see him get spit on
Yeah.
again.
Right. I think you're right.
There's an instant of tense silence as the eyes behind the mask gleam with raw anger. And then those little boys that are downstairs, they come up through, they finally made it up to the roof. They went inside the building. Don't hit him, Cap. He didn't mean any harm. And how do you know that, son? Because this is my big brother, Gilbert, and he's a good guy. Good guys and bad guys. For Captain America, this has been a day when the distinction between the two has grown vague. And he wonders, was there ever truly a time when it was different? Simultaneously, in the clogged heart of Manhattan, we're seeing coming out of the subway, coming up the stairs onto the street, there are rays being fired, and we see it's Everyman firing his sword. Where's CBS? I told them to be here. Where are those coneheads from NBC? It's not like the media vultures to be late when the scent of blood is in the air. And this time he's got a shield too, Bob.
He does. He's got an Everyman shield.
Yeah.
Sort of
And
diamond
it's more,
shape.
it's shaped more like Cap's original shield, like the heater shield, right?
Yeah, with a pointy end.
And just around the corner, we see news people there with cameras and microphones. Ah, the gentlemen of the press. I knew you Philistines wouldn't disappoint me. I think we got a real nut job on our hands, Lou. Nut job makes news, Ted. Shall we begin, my fatuous friends? All right, Bob, what's fatuous?
I believe it means it's a synonym for like flattering.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then we cut to the Avengers Mansion. Meanwhile, several blocks distant in the townhouse headquarters of the mighty Avengers, who do we see there in the Avengers?
Is that Tigra?
Mm-hmm. She's not alone.
And she's not wearing much.
Well, no, she never does.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, you're like throwing a house coat for crying out loud.
She's there resting on the couch, reading a comic book.
Zach.
And then you left out the other. You went right to the scantily clad female, Bob. You totally
Yes, I
didn't.
did.
You didn't even mention the fact that Iron Man's there.
Well, you know, I like cats, Rick.
Mm. All right. Well, then describe Tiger to people who aren't familiar with Tiger. Can you describe her?
She's cat-like. So she has the tiger stripe, actually more like than a lioness, and so she's orangish with the black stripes and sort of cat-like eyes, long auburn hair, and claws. So yeah,
and a bikini,
and a blue bikini. Yeah.
I don't see her tail, but she has a tail.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
And then Iron Man's wearing his classic red and yellow armor. You know, Iron Man, reading these old underground comics sure brings back a lot of memories of the good old days. Who could forget Love-Ins, Nixon, the war in Vietnam? Now, that's dating this comic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's 1981.
Yeah.
And so they're talking about, stuff that happened, a dozen years ago.
Yeah, not even that much, Rick. Yeah.
I know you're only half serious, Tigra, but I can't share your nostalgia. Those days were terrible. The country was split down the middle over a war nobody wanted. Our government was beginning to unravel. Our youth was rotting in the streets. And then it's those three boys that we saw that Cap was talking to, when he got off the motorcycle. And they come rushing in and they jump up on Tigra. Hiya, gorgeous. Yahoo, there's Iron Man. Yeah, and I don't know who this furry lady is, but she smells just like my cat, Elmo. Iron Man, is this some team of supervillains I missed in the files? Like the Sesame Street Squad? Or the horrible hordes of Captain Kangaroo?
Nice.
And then next page, we see who's that running in after them?
That would be Mr. Jarvis.
It's Jarvis. Pardon me, Master Iron Man, Miss Tigra, but have you seen Oh, there. They're in here. I know. You're the Lethal Legion of Little Rascals. And then Jarvis falls over and one of the kids jumps on him. Hey, Fancy Pants, what's your superpower? Okay, that's enough. Hold it. Are you all right, Jarvis? A bit ruffled, sir, but otherwise intact. I'd like to apologize to you all. I brought the boys here as a special treat, and I guess they got a bit carried away. You see, some things happened today, and I feel that I owe them, so And then it says three hooligans that were up on the roof that threw trash on him. I guess they're part of Cap's little tour here. Drop the guilt trip, man. You don't owe us anything, but you did show us some kindness. Instead of calling the cops or leaving the runs high and dry, you decided to reach out a little, and that puts you in solid with us, if you can dig it. From all indications, the Star-Spangled Avenger can most assuredly dig it. Come on, fellas. Let me give you the grand tour.
Can you dig it?
I can dig it. One grand tour later, and then the little kids and Tiger are sitting around watching the news, having a popsicle. Wouldn't you know it? The first chance I get to watch in weeks to watch MASH, and it gets bumped by a news bulletin. Looks like another baleful baddie out to win friends and influence people. I come to you as a representative of America's most silent majority, the poor saps who always have the dream of success dangled in front of their faces, but who are doomed by poverty or their own ordinariness to a life of unfulfilled wishes. It is time that the common man inherited the reins of power. It's time the wealthy and the venal, the millionaires and the politicians stop controlling our destinies. There is no better example of all that is wrong in the United States than Captain America, born in a laboratory, a creation of the military, a government-created tool whose prime purpose is to keep the false dream alive. Oh, and then Bob, then the announcer comes on. You want to do that voice?
Then, just as the self-styled Everyman challenged Captain America to a midnight duel at the Statue of Liberty, 4 armed policemen arrived to take him into custody. But the charismatic figure whose followers claim responsibility for today's assassination attempt on Captain America casually turned and murdered them.
Let these men stand as examples of what's in store for the heartless fiend of power. Wow. He did. He just used his sword. He turned around and he blasted them. Wow, Cap, that was very heavy. What are you going to do, Cap? Forget it, lady. He's gone. When he heard about those cops getting killed, he just ran right out of here. And I'll tell you something. He looked really upset. And next panel, we see Cap back on the motorcycle, and he's driving down the street. You know how you can tell he's driving down the street, Bob?
Would it have something to do with his exhaust, Rick?
Yeah, lots of exhaust.
Mm-hmm.
That's not just exhaust. That's like playing.
Yeah.
That's like playing the video game Spy Hunter and hitting the smoke cloud button, to get rid of the people tailing you.
Right. Yeah.
How can the media lavish attention on people like this Everyman? He's clearly a psychopath out to manipulate the very people he claims to represent. A maniac who twists ideas like putty. All right. So Steve Rogers was transformed into Captain America by the military. But that was a different era. I'm my own man now, and at heart, I always have been. It took time for me to become aware of the huge gap between the American dream and the American reality. And perhaps there were times I could have worked even harder to bridge it. But you don't get change by mouthing specious ideologies and making examples of innocent men. That's the route of the pedagogue and the tyrant. Playing insidious games of them versus us doesn't do a blasted bit of good. The years have taught me that we're all us. And the sooner we accept that, the better off America and the world will be. So those were those big words he was thinking.
The serum enhanced his intellect as well. So, but not mine, Rick. I gave you bum gouge. I looked up fatuous. It didn't mean flattering. It means lacking intelligence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he was saying that the media personalities were lacking in intelligence.
I was fatuous to not know that.
Now you do.
Next page, we come back to Hell's Kitchen in that room, that squalor with all the posters. And so Maggie is kneeling in front of Everyman who has his mask off, and she's pleading to him. What's wrong, Maggie? You seem so quiet, so distant. You're not still angry with me, are you? No, I'm not angry, just confused. I mean, my whole life has been a flight from poverty, from parents that treated me and Ira like dirt, from a world that never went beyond roach infested apartments and dead end jobs. I know our cause is right. I know that people need to be shaken out of their apathy, remind them of all that's wrong with this country. But I just can't get behind this violence. What's with the point of killing those cops? Why try and assassinate Captain America? Maggie, don't you see? They're killing us every day. Let me tell you a little story. And we get flashbacks, Bob. The story of a good man whose wife died, leaving him with a frail and sickly son. That man broke his back for 20 years in a factory just to keep a roof over the son's head, just to put food on the table. Despite all he'd suffered, that good man never lost faith in his country. He believed that his son would succeed where he failed, that the boy would reap the promise of America and make a difference in the world. But when that good man died, his dreams died too. The son didn't even have enough money to provide a decent funeral, and so he decided to repay his father in another way. He decided to lead the revolution that would give all the good men control over their lives, make them aware of the false dreams that exist just to keep them in line. He became Everyman, and he stands up, and at this point he has his mask on and his sword out, wielding a sword of justice, armed with the power of truth. Midnight comes to Liberty Island, bringing with a carnival atmosphere, unlike anything the fabled lady with the torch has ever witnessed. This match is being touted as the media event of the year, and the curious, the bored, the thrill seekers have swarmed here to be part of it. A palpable tension fills the air as the man in red, white, and blue costume threads his way through the crowd, every man's followers responding with a hail of verbal abuse. And so he goes to the crowd, they're holding signs, he gets to the police, one of the police officers there. Sergeant, I want those barricades moved back. Once that lunatic Everyman shows himself, things could get out of hand, and I don't want to get any bystanders getting hurt. Gotcha, Cap. Geez, this guy is something. Those crumbs are calling him every name in the book, and he's worried about him getting hurt. Okay, everybody, back off. And it's the three guys he brought to the Avengers Mansion.
Yeah.
Relax, man. We're going. Hey, Cap, we're with you, brother. Good luck. And he puts up the fist, man.
Mm-hmm.
What's that called?
Isn't that like the Black Power fist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There is a newborn respect in Gilbert's voice, real admiration gleaming in his eyes. But there is a gleam of another sort in the eyes of the blonde-haired figure skulking in shadows nearby. It's Everyman. Oh, Captain. Turn the page, and here he comes out. Never turn your back on the oppressed. It could prove fatal. And he fires his sword at Cap, and he puts up his shield and makes a noise, Bob.
Sequing!
Did you see how fast he got that shield up? Wow, anybody else would have been creamed. But here's the thing: Cap's on the ground. It knocked him back. I'm a little surprised by that.
Yeah, I am too.
Wouldn't the shield like absorb?
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It should absorb that energy.
But he's on the ground, and Everyman takes his pointed shield over top of him, a la John Walker, and he goes to impale Captain America. Your shield won't save you now, Captain. Your days as a symbol of deceit are over and done. But Cap puts his shield up very quickly, which breaks Everyman's shield. Not yet, son. You knocked the wind out of me with that electrical shock. That's all. And he kicks him back. Now, are you ready to stop this insanity and give up? Give up, Captain. I've trained long and hard for this confrontation. It will take a bit more than a simple kick to stop the common man from having his day. Common man? A killer like you? Mister, you're sick. And he throws the shield, but Everyman puts his sword up and fires at it, making it go away in the direction of the crowd. And as he's doing this, he says, "Am I now? If I were you, Captain, I would worry less about other people's mental states and start looking after your errant shield. Wouldn't want any members of our audience getting their heads sheared off, would we? Great Scott! Got to stop it before." And he dives for the shield to stop it from hitting anyone, leaving himself open and vulnerable to attack. And he gets fired with the ray. "Adieu, Captain. I did it." And then he laughs maniacally. "I've destroyed the symbol of America's fastest, simplest, avarice ruling class. I've torn down the old order, and now and then someone's tapping on his shoulder. He turns. "Everyman, I think I've had enough of you." And he punches him out. "How?" "I angled my body, rolled with your blast so that the brunt of it missed me. You believe me, mister? You're not getting another shot." "Everyman, are you all right?" Maggie runs up to him. "No, I'm not all right. I'm failing, just like father failed. I can't let that happen." "What are you doing? Let go. You're hurting me." "Shut up. Captain, I'm going to kill this girl. Do you hear me?" "I hear you, son. But you don't want to do that." "Oh, yes, I do. I don't care about her. I don't care about any of them." "What do you care about?" "I want to matter. I want to stand up above the crowd. I want to make all the rich pigs walk in fear of me. This country's betrayed him. It bled him dry. It told him he was nothing, that he was worthless, just another face in the crowd. Well, I'm not another face in the crowd now, am I? People are going to remember me. And you know why?" "Why?" "Come over here and I'll show you." With slow, steady steps, the Star-Spangled Avenger moves forward, his eyes never leaving the point of Everyman's sword. "Now, what do you want to show me, son?" "This." "Bob." And then he laughs. "That'll be on the news all over the world." "Bob, we just saw a third spit."
A third spit right on the star, right on the chest star.
Uh,
I'm speechless.
I don't I don't know what to say. "Then you got what you want. Let the girl go." "No, I'm going to kill her anyway." "Why?" "Because, Captain, just because." It is the sound of that "because" that finally convinces Captain America that Everyman is totally insane. He drives down his anger, turns, and he starts like moving the police blockades, like the little wooden horses, and he starts setting them up. "You showed me something, son. Now there's something I want to show you." Hey, what are you doing?" "Something I want you to watch carefully before you make a decision about the girl." Slowly, the Sentinel Liberty rearranges the police barricade until they resemble nothing more than an incredible, intricate obstacle course. Then, without a word, he launches himself across the course, muscles rippling with every move, the embodiment of grace and power. It is an exhibition the finest Olympic athlete would watch with envy, and it ends with a, "What's he do, Bob?"
He basically shatters the barricades
"With his shield, yeah."
with his shield. Yeah.
"Now listen closely, son, because I'm only going to say this once. I've been the best there is for 40 years. Men have called me the perfect fighting machine. Now, perhaps you will be able to kill that girl before I can stop you. But what do you think I'm going to do to you afterwards?" There's a moment of silence, and then a wild terror rises in Everyman's eyes. "No, you're not better than me." And at this point, he points the sword up, and his grip loosens, and the girl flees, and Cap's shield flies. "You're not." And then, as it knocks the sword out of his hand, it goes back behind him, ricochets off the wall, and comes back and knocks Everyman down. It's over. And then the police are like, "Come on, let's grab that cop killing loon." But Cap says, "Go easy on him, Sergeant. He's a very disturbed young man. And then those three kids come running up, the older ones. Hey, Capo, you were beautiful, man. You showed that guy what for. I'm afraid I'm not as exultant about this as you are, boys. There's such a mood of renewed patriotism sweeping this land that it's easy to forget the dark underbelly of the American dream. But this whole day has been one grim reminder. Maybe it's been grim for you, but today we found out that it ain't all that dark as long as there's one guy willing to extend a hand. I appreciate that, Gilbert. But, and then Maggie comes up. Listen to him, Cap. Every man and all of us who followed him made a choice. We chose despair over hope. We chose to lash out against people instead of working with them. That just keeps the darkness alive. It swallowed every man tonight, but I'm not going to let it swallow me. So maybe I won't be rich or famous. Maybe I won't live the great American success story. So what? Those things aren't America. People are America. Ordinary people willing to help one another up out of the despair, who are willing to share a little love along the way. Sheesh, will you listen to me making speeches like a regular Captain America? I am listening, and what I hear sounds so right. And perhaps if we try, each in his own way, to bring those words to life, this American dream of ours will become reality. The end.
All right.
All right, Bob, immediate
Nice.
thoughts.
Well, it's a poignant story, Rick. But timely too. I mean, it's everything goes in waves, right? This obviously came out in early 1980s. And there was that wave of patriotism sweeping the land. I remember that time very, very well. But a lot of hardship too, a lot of despair. And so I think DeMatteis is trying to trying to tell that story in a way that people could relate to at the time. And like, how do you reconcile that? And so this story does try to reconcile that yeah, even when things are hard, you can't turn against each other. You gotta help each other. You gotta work with each other, embrace each other. And so I think the story tells that. Obviously, it's a comic book, right? It can only be so sophisticated, but it tells it in a very, I think, upfront way that it teaches a great lesson to kids who are reading the comic book at the time.
Yeah, and I was one of those kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it does have a good moral story, a
Yeah.
good message. Um, I'll be honest, one of my probably least favorite DeMatteis Cap stories.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that I don't think he wasn't close to like reaching his groove yet with the character.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
like a couple of things like we pointed out, it just didn't seem like Cap.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but the things that I did like, was him extending the relationship with Bernie,
Yeah.
right? Like that was something that was introduced by Roger Stern and John Byrne, and then I think DeMatteis did a really good job in fleshing out that character of Bernie Rosenthal. So I think that was good in here. I think Cap questioning some of his role in today's society,
Mm-hmm.
was good. Um, uh, yeah, mixed bag for me. Mixed bag
Okay.
for
That's
me.
fair. That's fair.
I think this was early on in the run, and
Mm-hmm.
then but again, DeMatteis is my favorite Captain America writer, so
Mm-hmm.
so good stories, better stories to come for me. But overall, I think it was a good story for the time that he did this.
Yeah, I think it's the nice thing about the story is even though there's a lot of pop culture references, as you point out, even some that you didn't point out, but
And we'll
people
get to those.
people who are reading them at the time certainly would have understood them, and yet the story that is the moral of the story is timeless,
Hmm.
and that's I think that's the mark of great writing, right? Is that it appeals to folks at the time it's written, but some 60 years later, how about 50 years later, it's almost 50 years later, it can still
It is
appeal
not.
to readers.
Don't make me old.
It's
It is
not.
not
It's,
50
it's
years
6 years.
later.
Isn't 6 years? It's going to be 50 years from the 80s. Yeah. Have you been
Well,
following those memes, Rick?
it's 40. Yeah, it's 43 years.
Okay, it's close enough to
Yeah,
50,
don't.
buddy.
Okay, all right. Listen,
Close enough, buddy.
it's closer to 40 than it is 50.
Okay, all right, all right. Well, okay, 40. That's so much better. Okay. Well, in
I'll
any
take
case,
it. I'll take it.
in any case, it's still relevant, right? You can read it today and
Yes.
still see something that applies to our
Yeah, I mean, there's
society
some
and
quotes in
situation.
here that sound really relevant.
Yeah. Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm not going to get too political
Mhm.
and get into those. But in any case, all right, Bob, I believe you go first. What is your favorite panel in this issue?
All right, Rick. Well, I am gonna have to go with that second panel of the Bernie Steve kiss. I love that one.
Uh-huh.
Like it's on, I don't know, page 5 or something
Yeah, yeah,
of
yeah.
the art, right? But
Yeah.
she's putting that lip lock on him and he's not responding, and her eyes snap open wide. And
Uh-huh.
like, I think most people have been in this position at one point in their life where
Uh-huh.
you realize the person you're kissing is not as into it as you are, and she senses that, right? And she's upset by it. And I think, Zeck has perfectly captured that moment. And for that,
Including the before and after
the
too.
before and the after, yeah, which
Yeah, yeah.
which seals the deal. So I love that. I love that. It's the human experience that comes through in that panel.
Absolutely.
How about yourself?
I liked that panel where he was riding the motorcycle with that big plume behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Just seeing Cap on the motorcycles, always cool for me.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of detail put into this. I mean, there's like the road itself, is like a cobblestone. There's you see the stairs leading up to a brownstone behind him, a fence, trees, a fire hydrant. There's so much detail going
There's
on in
debris
this.
on the road, for crying out loud. Yeah.
Yeah. But I also like some of the things he's thinking in the word balloons,
Right.
and so I do like that.
Very nice. I like that too. That's good. How about a t-shirt? You got anything that's t-shirt worthy?
I was going to do um the one on the same page, but a couple panels later, and it's the panel that says, playing insidious games of them versus us doesn't do a blasted bit of good. The years have taught me that we're all us. And I would like that big on a t-shirt, because I think that's a great message.
Yeah, that is a good message. Yeah, good choice.
Yeah.
Good
What about you?
choice.
T-shirt.
I'm going with that first splash page. I just need to see Cap at the podium making his speech to the high schoolers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all 3 word balloons, starting with in conclusion, I want you to, the future is yours, and concluding with reach out, care, dare to dream the highest dreams, and you will make a difference. You must. That's a great Cap speech. So
It is.
slap that on a t-shirt for me.
Okay. All right. And what's going in your time capsule?
Well, Rick, you kind of touched on it with your favorite panel. I'm going with the motorcycle.
Really?
Going with the motorcycle. So Cap has had a motorcycle going all the way back to the Golden Age, Rick. You know that, right? And so, but the first time we see this sort of branded motorcycle was in Captain America 259, right? Remember, it was a gift from what John or Joey Coulson, remember? Something like that. He gave him this custom motorcycle. And we continue to see that motorcycle for several issues, and we see it pop up every now and again. And then eventually, when Cap becomes the captain, it sort of goes away for a more subdued motorcycle. And then by the time you get up to like the late 400, maybe 424, something like that, it's pardon the terminology, it's a rice rocket, right? It's not that old like FLH Electroglide sort of bike that Harley Davidson, that Elliot Brown did the schematic for in issue 15 of the official handbook of the Marvel Universe. So it was only for a very, kind of tiny window of a few years that we got to see the red, white, and blue Harley Davidson motorcycle that I think really screams Captain America.
I like that.
Yeah.
Totally like that. Good choice by you.
And how about yourself? What do you got for a time capsule?
I was so sure that you were gonna steal this, and then especially when you said pop culture references that were not mentioned,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, he's gonna do it. He's gonna take it. And that's when Everyman's coming out of
I knew it.
the subway,
Yeah.
and he says, where are those cone heads from NBC?
Right. Yeah.
Right? And
Exactly.
I kind of purposely glossed over that. I didn't
I
want
was
to
okay.
I didn't want to like make a big deal of it, because you would steal it from me. But the Coneheads,
The
right? The
cone heads.
Coneheads were
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd
Uh-huh.
and was
Jane
it
Curtin.
Jane Curtin, right?
Yeah.
And Lorraine Newman.
Lorraine Newman.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
three of them were these aliens. It was a skit on Saturday Night Live that was a reoccurring skit because it
Yeah.
was pretty popular, and it was just they had real tall, bald skinheads, like
Yeah.
that, but they're big cones, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, he's referencing the
And a
cone heads.
movie.
They did make a movie.
Terrible movie, but
Yeah,
yes. Yeah.
yeah.
But they're very, very bad.
There's not I can't think of hardly any Saturday Night Live skits that became movies that were good.
Yeah.
Um,
Couple
listeners,
amusing, but
help me, yeah, because there was
Ladies
got
Man,
what?
the Ladies Man. Remember the Ladies Man?
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Had that
yeah.
one. And
Didn't John Lovitz do a liar?
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't see it though.
Yeah. Night
And
at the
then
Roxbury.
yeah,
What
I
is
didn't,
love? You know that one?
I didn't like the skit, so I guess I wasn't gonna like the movie.
You, me,
And
you,
then
me, you, me.
Superstar,
Yeah, Superstar. Yeah, Mary Catherine Gallagher. Yeah,
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 Catherine Yeah, yeah, Wayne's World. Yeah, that one was
that
amusing.
one was good.
Yeah,
That one was good.
that was a hit. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but you're right. Not many of them, did very, very well.
Oh,
So
wasn't there It's Pat,
that's right.
right? Didn't they make a
Yeah,
movie for that?
I think they did. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Uh
yeah,
anyway,
tough to translate.
so yeah, there we go. Also I just want to point out too in the letter column,
Mm-hmm.
there's some letters here to a living legend, and one of them is by Kevin J. Dooley. Uh, Kevin J. Dooley, I was like, I know that name. He ended up being a editor for DC Comics for many, many years.
Did he
He
really?
was an assistant editor, and then he eventually got promoted to editor, and he was on the Green Lantern and Aquaman books, and some big things happened when he was the editor. One was Hal Jordan went evil, and Kyle Rayner became the new Green Lantern. Like that was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then also one where Aquaman had his hand eaten off by a piranha and then replaced with a hook. Like these are big deals that happened with these characters. And yeah, Kevin J.
Yeah.
Dooley was the editor at the time.
Wow. All right. Well, that's pretty cool. Pretty
Yeah,
cool. He had a letter and eventually moved up into an editorial position someday.
sort of like J.M. DeMatteis.
Yeah.
He had a
That's
lot of
pretty neat.
letters published, and then yeah, 10 years later, he's writing comics.
Yeah.
So Bob, you brought up something really cool. You brought up the schematics for the Captain America's motorcycle, and it was in the official handbook of the Marvel Universe.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've seen schematics over the years, whether it be the motorcycle, his van, his Quinjet, his private Quinjet. We've seen schematics for his shield, and we've seen schematics for his Brooklyn apartment. We've seen a lot of stuff about Captain America and his colleagues like Falcon, right? Like the schematics for it. Those were always cool. Did you enjoy seeing those when you were a kid?
I did, Rick. Those things were, you could spend hours just like poring over the detail of the schematics, particularly like buildings or big vehicles.
Oh yeah, like the
All that
Avengers
stuff. Yeah,
Mansion
the
or
helicarrier or
yeah.
lots of stuff.
Well, there was a guy, an artist, who that was his specialty
Mhm.
in Marvel, and he did all of those, with the including the Baxter Building and Asgard and Wolverine's skeleton, Iron Man's
Yeah.
armor.
Punisher's van.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a ton of Punisher's
Yeah.
weapons. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. His whole armory.
Elliot R. Brown is the writer, and I mean the artist and writer, because he
Mhm.
wrote a lot of the details too. He's going to be our guest in the next episode.
That is so exciting. I mean, he's a legend. Anybody who's read a comics from, that era has
Yeah,
come across his stuff and may not know his name, but you're going to be familiar with his work.
right.
If so, definitely an amazing guest to have. So I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, because he was working with Marvel in the bullpen like in the '70s. So
Mhm.
I'm sure he's going to have some fun stories to share. So looking forward to talking to him next episode.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well.
All right. Well, Bob, as always, it has been so much fun wrapping cap with you.
I can't wait till next week, Rick.
All right. He's Bob Lucius. I'm Rick Verbanis. And you, if you don't mind, please do rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening. If you're on YouTube right now, please hit that like button and leave us a comment. We always enjoy any comments on any of the platforms. And one of these days, we'll do a little special and read them here. So please do that. And as always, thank you for listening to another episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. Oh, Bob, I need to tell you.
Yeah.
I need to tell you a dad joke.
All right. I got one for you too.
All right, so this one, to me, it's how you tell the dad joke,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And so I was on a work meeting today, and it was this meeting was scheduled like from 4 to 5, and we got done at 4:30, and it was kind of like there was nothing left, so we were gonna end the meeting soon. And I was like, oh yeah, guys, I hope you had a good weekend. And it's like, yeah, I had a good weekend. I actually went to a wedding on Saturday, and saw a lot of family. And whenever you get together, family, everybody wants to talk about when we were kids and all the stuff we would do. And I gotta admit, uh, I had a good childhood. I remember, going to this hill, and my dad, he used to bring these like big fat tires and put us inside the tire and just roll us down the hill. Those were good years.
Very nice.
So I tell this, and my boss, who is also big on dad jokes,
Yeah.
immediately goes, I am totally muting your button. A very good friend of mine, I'm working with her closely for like 7 years, and I do dad jokes with her. It took her a second, and she's like, "Oh my God, no, that's so bad." And then the two other people there didn't get it, and so I had to explain it, and then I had to repeat it, right?
Yeah.
And much shorter. And one of my coworkers he's like, man, I really thought you were telling us a story, because earlier today you told me you went to a wedding on Saturday. I just thought you were telling the story, and I was I'm
Those are the
like,
best setups.
I know, like, you know
Yeah.
what? It's it's more fun for me if you don't know that it's a joke.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's how
Yeah.
I play it in my class. Like they know I come in, I talk about the news, I talk about what I heard on the radio on the drive up, and they don't know when the joke starts. Right.
Nice.
It's like a smooth transition until you get to the punchline.
All right, so let's hear yours. What do you got?
Oh, it was a great. I came across a joke on Facebook the other day, and I used it this morning in the meeting. So we do a lot of trail maintenance, and so we have a lot of tools and stuff like that. And so I was telling my trail operations coordinator that I went out and I bought her a new piece of equipment over the weekend. It's an electronic hedge trimmer. It's
Mhm.
cutting edge technology, and she. So, but of course I strung it along. I went to Home
Uh-huh.
Depot, I was checking out prices at Lowe's, I went through the whole like spiel and this electric, trimmer. Yeah. So it was great. She didn't see it coming. Right? So,
Very nice.
yeah.
I'll have to remember that one.
Yeah. It's a good lawn joke. It's coming. It's summer.